OTS Championships are exclusive tournaments that happen every single format where players can compete at their local game store to earn their invite to Nationals. This past weekend, Millennium held their biggest OTS Championship of all time. 75 players competed in 7 rounds of Swiss and then 3 additional rounds of Top Cut, where top 4 got their invite to Nationals. In first place, you know what? Let me just have the winner show you what first place won themselves. The Dark Dragon Championship match. It's me, the champion. For this event, I decided to play Purrely, a deck I haven't picked up in over a month. If you've been watching Let's Stop Locals, you know that we are in the middle of No Meta November. However, for an event of this magnitude, I really wanted to play a deck that gave me the most competitive edge. It might not be the best deck, but it is the deck that I feel I knew the best and could perform the best with. Which I did. So today we're going to go over the full deck list, what has changed and why we played what we played, go over some of our matchups, and talk about the theory behind it. So make sure to subscribe for the next episode of Let's Stop Locals, and let's get right into the list. So starting off, we're playing triple copies of Purrely and triple copies of our Purrely. There's not really a lot to say here, right? These cards are pretty self-explanatory. I think the only thing of note is that post-sideboard, DD Crow is a very popular card. So Purrely is a lot less optimal here. Games 2 and 3, I'm really trying to focus more on activating the Purrely effect on field to upgrade to get us to our Noir that way instead, to try to play around those types of interruptions. And then obviously we're playing the 10 quick play spell cards. I wish we could play more, but we only have access to these 10. I think the MVP of all of these is obviously the Happy Memory. Unchained is a very, very popular deck still, and the Happy Memory can not only protect your cards, but can also protect their cards from being destroyed, so you can prevent them from extending even more. Now, even though Delicious is only at 1 copy, I do think that it is a little bit more accessible than people think. During the end phase, if you have the field spell, I'm always trying to attach Delicious, not only to get that attack buff, but on the next turn, we can link away that monster, or we can also just crash that monster to put this in the graveyard and then just add it back as well. You can also just try to get lucky and hit it off of your 33% chance of your My Friend Purrely, which we're obviously playing 3 copies of. This card can just search any single Purrely card in your deck and just get you direct access to almost everything that you need. And not only can this get you any Purrely card from your deck, this can also just get you your Purrely follow-up, because if you have a Purrely Xyz monster face up on the board and it leaves because of your opponent's card, you then get to add back up to 3 quick play spell cards with different names from your grave to your hand. And the best part is you can trigger this card yourself by just going to the battle phase. You attack with your Purrely Xyz into something that might be a little bit bigger, your Purrely card goes to the graveyard, and then boom, it triggers. You just add back 3 quick play spells. And then moving on, we are playing not 1, not 2, but 3 copies of our Stray Purrely Street. A month ago, I think this card used to be a 1, maybe even a 2 of, but I think now that this is an absolute mandatory 3 of. This card won me so many games yesterday. Rescue Ace targets, the Purrely Mirror Match targets. We played both of those matchups multiple times. The fact that your special summon Purrely monsters can't be targeted to turn their summon literally prevents so many interactions and allows you to just play for free. Playing 3 copies of this allows you to hit it off of your Purrely excavations a little bit more as well, and you can also just reveal 3 of it off of your My Friend to search at the start of your main phase and then just continually playing without having to worry about being targeted. As I said, I think this card is a mandatory 3 of. This is not a card you can cut. This is not a card you can side out. 3 Purrely Street, absolutely mandatory. And then for the last card of our engine, we are playing the 1 copy of our Purrely Yeep.
Yeep.
And then we are playing the double copies of our Pot of Prosperity. This to me is honestly just the 2nd and the 3rd copy of our Delicious Memory. I really wanted to play 3, but this would put us at 41 cards. I know that it's just a small percentage difference, but I wanted that small percentage on my side. I wanted this deck to be as consistent as possible, and double Prosperity made the deck 40, so we just went with 40 cards instead of 41. And then moving on to some of our non-engine cards, we played triple copies of Fenrir. I still think that this is the best card in Yu-Gi-Oh! In a deck like Purrely that requires you to discard cards off of your quick play spell, Fenrir is not only an interruption, but it is also just a free card to discard, so you're not losing any of your hand advantage. In a simplified game state, Fenrir puts in so much work. Having this card face up on the board literally is just an interruption every single turn, and in round 6 against Manadium, this card just soloed the entire matchup. And the fact that this is a 2400 body and most of our monsters are a little bit small makes it so much easier to close out games. And moving on to the best part of the deck, we are playing triple copies of our Nibiru, triple copies of our Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring.
Forehead, not feet. I'm here, by the way. Hi. Hello, it's me.
Triple copies of our Infinite Impermanence, and in my personal opinion, the best card of the day, last minute choice, was triple copies of Effect Veiler.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure everyone's decks yesterday had Veiler in them. It was actually the MVP of the tournament.
I think going into a format where you're going to see so much Rescue Ace, so much of Infernoble, so much Centurion, and even so much Unchained, this card really just put in so much work. As opposed to something like Droll, which we are citing, Veiler just covers way more. It won us single-handedly our matchup up against Rescue Ace, and it won us our matchup against Centurion. And on top of that, it's also just a card that you can draw on your opponent's standby phase that is usable. When you're playing a deck that draws a lot, you want to have access to as many live cards as possible, and I think Valor was genuinely just the best card in the deck yesterday. And that's the 40 card list. Let's get into the extra deck. Not a lot has really changed here. For our Link monsters, we're playing the 1 copy of our Relinquished Anima, the 1 copy of our Dark, and the 1 copy of our SP Little Knight. I think the coolest play that I executed yesterday was in top 8. I summoned a Relinquished Anima, grabbed one of my opponent's cards, linked it off into Dark, grabbed their copy of Baby Noir, discarded a card to bounce a card, and then made SP to clear another card. SP is genuinely just one of the best cards ever printed, and I think playing this card in this deck is absolutely mandatory. I know a lot of people were on Azalea, some people are on the Condemned Witch. SP needs to be in your extra deck if it's not.
Because I have a feeling someday very soon she will end up on a ban list.
Oh, easily.
God, I hope so.
Easily.
I hate her.
And then for our Purrely XZ, is pretty self-explanatory. We're playing the double copy of Beauty, the double copy of Happiness, the 1 copy of Plump, 1 copy of Baby Noir, and the double copies of our Big Noir. As I said before, I think knowing this deck like the back of my hand really helped me take the event because I was able to make the Happiness and bounce back row when it came up. I was able to make the Beauty and switch my opponent's monsters into a different position and then attack for game. And though I didn't use my own Baby Noir, summoning back my opponents to clear one of their cards was actually really freaking cool. But obviously the best card in this deck is just Noir, right? Like a freaking Towers that can shuffle back not once per turn, unaffected by everything. Like, this card is the MVP of the deck. You literally just make this every single turn and you win every single game. Now everyone knows that Noir is a great card, but I think the best part about it is knowing how and when to use it. A lot of the times I'm just gonna sit on the Noir and force my opponent to commit a ton of resources to try to out it. If they can't out it, they just lose the game. This is a tempo card. I'm not shotgunning any detaches until I'm absolutely forced to. This card forces interaction, and if your opponent can't interact, they lose the game. In the game of modern Yu-Gi-Oh, it feels difficult to be patient sometimes, but this is one of those decks that forces you to be patient and interact where it really matters. But it's also the most rewarding deck for that reason. And then for another change in the extra deck, we are playing the 1 copy of our Ensemble Robin, the 1 copy of Downard, and then the Zeus, and then the 1 copy of our Typhon. So we took out the copy of Princess Sprite from our extra deck because going first, now we can just make SP. That is literally a better card. If you're gonna be digging for a resource, I'd rather just make an interruption instead. Our rank 1 of choosing was the Ensemble Robin, and I'm glad that we put this card in the extra deck because it literally won us the finals. Not only can this card be a double compulse, but having a rank 1 to go into Downard, into Zeus, just gives us more options and helps us clear boards easily.
Clearing the board with Zeus. Holy smokes. Zeus coming in clutch right now.
Moving into our side deck, we played triple copies of DD Crow. As I said, right, for the Purrely Mirror match, this card can literally just close out the match instantaneously. When they literally target a spell, you just DD Crow the spell card. Absolutely fantastic. We also wanted to have something like this on our side deck for something like the tier limit matchup. Though we didn't play it, we did play another graveyard deck in the finals, which was the Phantom Knight Horus deck, so I'm glad we played something like Crow. A lot of people were playing Shifter in the side deck for Purrely, and while I do think it's a cool card, I didn't test with it, not playing this deck in a month, so I just want to have something that I felt comfortable with, something I knew when and where to interact with, and DD Crow was one of those cards that I could draw on my opponent's standby phase and have it still be a live card. And though we didn't main deck it, we did side deck triple copies of Droll and Lockbird. Manadium's running around, we did play it did win us a game, and this is just really good against the tier limit matchup. And moving on, we played triple copies of Summon Limit. So this was our going first card. I was between this and Judgment, and I'm really glad that I played the Summon Limit because against Exo Sisters in round 2, when you flip this, they literally just can't XZ summon and the game was over right there. And then we played double copies of Lightning Storm and the 1 copy of Feather Duster. The Lightning Storm came up in the finals. We were in such a simplified game state. I knew that our Phantom Knight opponent had a Fog Blade set. We activate the Lightning Storm, clear the back row, and then are able to play for free. This is the only time that I saw Lightning Storm despite siding it almost every single round, but I'm glad it decided to show up when it did because we got this mat because of it. And then for a card that I was kind of on the fence about was triple copies of Dark Ruler No More. This was a card that I saw a lot of deck lists main decking and a lot of decks siding. I personally never saw this card. I don't think it ever came up for me. I almost wish it was additional back row removal instead, but I understand the theory behind it. I never really needed it because I think the Purrely cards are just so strong at clearing boards. Rank 1 Zeus, clear the board. You can just pretty suck your opponent's cards up. You can SP, banish your opponent's cards. Though I wish this was more back row removal, we wound up winning the tournament in the end, so everything worked out. Moving forward, I do think that this will just be something else. So that's the deck, and I'm glad that we were able to take the entire event with a deck that we know and love, just like Purrely.
And shout out to our OTS Millennium Games for having a 75-player OTS tournament. It's the biggest one we ever had. The judges did an amazing job. The event was efficient as hell. Chandler did a great job hosting the stream. You can go see the VOD on the Millennium Twitch. We'll put a link in the description. But I'm really proud of Bry Guy, obviously, and I hope you're all proud of him too. So make sure you leave some love in the comment section for him. Good old Rust Bucket with Purrely came out in the end, and it really feels good. He's got his invite for Nationals, which we will be seeing you at in 2024 at whatever location Konami decides. But I got a rockin' 74th place after a Swift O2 drop. Don't worry, my deck profile will be in the next episode of Let's Top Locals. So with that being said, team, make sure to subscribe for the next episode of LTL, and we love you, you matter, and we will see you guys in the next video this week. Ooh,
See ya!
bye, team!